August 29th, Pine Knob, Toto, Christopher Cross, and the Romantics. The
Right.
Romantics. I mean,
Right.
come on, Joe. This is a pretty cool bill you've got.
It is. We're really excited about it. It was just a sort of a stroke of genius to come up with the Romantics as a third player here in this situation, and we're really looking forward to it.
Which one of their songs would you like to take a bite out of?
All of them.
All of them? Okay,
Yeah.
well said. Yeah. I've always wanted to hear you and Luke go off on Rock You Up. I think you'd have fun with that song.
Hey, absolutely.
Okay.
We're gonna be having our dinner while they're doing that.
Kind of listening backstage going, I like that song. I like that song.
Exactly.
Um, Joe Williams with us with Toto, obviously. And there's something I was thinking about. And you joined the band at 86, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. The audition, what song did you do?
All of them. I mean, the first thing I did when I got down there was, well, we hung out for a little while because I knew them all before, there even was a band.
Right.
So I was a friend. So we, laughed and hung out and told stories and all that stuff. And then we, went right up on the gear and just went straight to Rosanna, Hold the Line, Africa, the main ones to make sure that I could handle that. That was probably the most important thing to them. And then we went over a few others. I can't remember exactly which ones, we played for, a couple hours.
You
It
seem
was
so
le
calm about it, but in the moment, because I remember what was the movie Rockstar, the Mark Wahlberg one where he auditioned for the heavy metal band, and I'm thinking, was there ever the oh my God, this is really happening moment for you?
Well, the whole
The whole
thing
thing?
felt
Yeah.
like that, absolutely. I mean, they didn't give me an answer on that particular day, but I mean, so I left going, I don't know what that was, but let's see what happens.
How long till you got an answer?
It took about a week and a half or somewhere in there, and then
Come on, really?
Yeah, and then Jeff called me out of the blue and said, "You're okay, you're it,
Do
you're in."
you it's like a second date, you don't want to call them, you kind of have to be patient about it, or but you must have wanted to call them and go, what's the deal? What are we doing?
Yeah, I chose to just, not poke myself into their process, whatever it happened to be. No, but they were seriously looking at other couple of the people. I wasn't the only possible choice. You know what I mean? So I guess they, looked at and maybe played with a few other people before Jeff basically, decided or anyway, he was the one that called. Basically said, where's my singer?
Um, and I would think too, inserting yourself into Toto, I've always wondered, these are some of the greatest session musicians in LA, and to be together in a band. And I was listening to Pamela on the way home today, knowing I was going to talk to you, and I'm listening to the intricacies and the way everything's produced. It's so crisp and clean and pure. That has to make it really hard to front a band like that because they're all 100% all the time in the studio. At least I can, in my mind's eye, it's how I envision it. Is that pretty accurate?
It's very accurate, and it was obviously true of the original guys in the band. We are all these years later. Luke is kind of the last man standing, but one rule that doesn't ever get broken is that whoever is playing in the band has to be basically the top of their game. They have to be of that caliber in order to really to play Toto's repertoire. It's not an easy thing. To be honest with you, my job, I play a little keyboards in the show, but for the most part, I'm just, walking around with a mic, strutting around singing and stuff. And I tell the audience I got the best job in the world because I'm walking around among my friends, just listening to the most amazing playing and everything that they do. So that like when I'm, in a moment where I'm not singing, I just get to hang out and watch incredible playing going on. So it's, yeah.
What was the first show you fronted, the live show when you fronted the band?
Where was it? I think it was. it could have been Japan, could have been somewhere in Japan, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I mean that first Fahrenheit tour, we did Japan. We played in Hawaii, I remember, and I know that we did a tour in Europe. I can't remember if it was summer or winter. I remember both, but I'm not sure which one was the first. And it was great. But the first task that I had as the singer was to go to Japan with Mike Porcaro, who was also relatively new because David Hungate, original bass player, had left. And brother of Porcaro, brother Mike, joined, full time as bass player. So they sent Mike and I to Japan to do some press prior to the tour that we were going to do there. So that was like my first task, where when all we did was interviews and TV spots and all that kind of stuff.
What's it like playing with the band? I don't know yet. We haven't done it live. I mean, was it a lot of that? Like you're kind of going, "Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it."
A little bit, but they knew, they knew this was like the first time they were seeing me. So they were more, the questions were more like, how excited are you to do this, that kind of thing.
Are there songs in Toto's repertoire that, as you do them live, or maybe just over the years with the band In and Out, Joe, that like you start to really appreciate them even more, the nuance? I keep using that word, but you know what I mean? Like some songs you listen to and go, "Damn, there's a lot going on here."
Well, yeah, I mean that's true of just about all of them. But I mean, if I were to, other than the albums that I did with them, I mean, if you
Yeah.
were talking about the songs that came before, you know, uh, things like Hydra and Saint George and the Dragon and those songs. That was, I guess, off the album Hydra. Um, the Isolation album had some really really amazing stuff on it. Like Endless and Lion, which was one of my favorite Toto songs, hands down. Just still to this day, just like one of my faves. There's just so much to choose from. You know what I mean? But all of the singing, especially, blew my mind. Whoever was taking the center seat, but the band always had three or four lead singers going on. Dave sang lead vocals on Africa, and Luke sings lead vocals on Rosanna. And of course, Bobby does the high stuff and hold the line and stuff. And then Fergie, Fredrickson, came in after Bobby, and he did Lion and all those Isolation songs. So it was daunting, definitely taking a look at all of this. But I don't know. I come from a very musical family and a musical background and a history of singing in the studio, doing jingles. So my work in the studio, I think, was a big plus for me joining this band, because I but anyway, you name a song, and that kind of answers the question.
I think when I asked Luke the question, if you ran into someone from Toto and they knew who you were, but they'd never heard any song from Toto, which one? He said Rosanna. That would be the one that he would play for them first. Not your best, but the first one you would play for somebody. What's the first song you would play for somebody? Go, I know who you are, but I've never heard your music.
I'd probably say the Rosanna or Africa or
Yeah.
or or any of the big three, really. Hold the Line. I mean, I might choose Hold the Line just because, I mean, that was the first and sort of most obvious hit that the band had. And it was huge. I know why Luke is saying Rosanna, because Rosanna musically and vocally represents really like the top of like what they were able to do as in terms of production.
Right.
So if you're listening to a song, a studio song, that studio performance, I would probably pick that one too. Actually, it just has all the bells and whistles. It's two lead singers, going from one key to another, which is a little bit of a Toto thing. It has incredible keyboard work in it. The groove, David Page's groove. The content of the lyric. It's basically just a love song. Yeah, I might pick that one too.
Um, I'm a big believer in the big first step. Yeah, that in any, especially what you do as a performer, but anyone in life, there's a moment where you're all in. You put all your chips in, you decide I'm going to do this. With your background, and for people who don't realize this, your dad, John Williams, was there ever a moment where you're like, I don't want to go down this road musically. I want to do something else?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll put it to you. I mean, the first gig I had, professional gig, I was 15, which would have been 1975. Um, and so clearly my interest was in music, in doing something in music, and certainly performance. My mother was an actress and a
She was.
stage
Yeah.
performer and all of that, and so that really appealed to me. But in answer to your question, when I was getting out of high school, I was thinking that, you know what the other thing I would really love to do with my life is be a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot. I definitely a speed, you know, not speed, but going fast
Right.
junk. And that interested me. So I started going to college just to get the basic degree to become an officer and train in the Air Force or the Navy to be a pilot. So that was on the table for me, and during that period of time where I was in school, I started getting calls and gigs doing, singing on TV commercials and jingles and stuff. And when I saw what was able to make doing that, then I said, "Not, there's no way I'm going to go into the military. This is too much fun."
So with your dad, was it what was his mindset with you? He obviously knew how hard it is getting into the music industry in any form and entertainment with both your parents. Did they encourage you, or what was the mindset?
Well, no, they always encouraged us, with whatever we really wanted to do. But if you were to talk to my father at that time, he was probably hoping maybe lawyer or maybe doctor, or only because he knew how difficult the business is. And he had to work as a butt off, when he was a younger guy, and so he's like he completely different end of the field, but started out as a piano player and played in jazz bands and did shows and stuff like that, but immediately moved into playing piano for studio orchestras for film scores, which is how he got into orchestration and how he got into composing and all of that stuff. So one thing led to another. With me, it was clear I wasn't going to go the sort of traditional route of a musical education. It was, so the odds go down considerably that you can make anything happen. I mean, it's ridiculous. For every 100 people that have some kind of success in the music business, there's a million that don't.
And
So
your dad, I mean, he knows that, but at the same time, you want to enable your kids, but you want to be realistic without scaring them. That's a slippery slope.
it truly is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But he, they did nothing but encourage all of us. I'm the third of three children, and all of us are musicians. And my sister's the only one that went to school and became a psychologist. But the funny thing about that is that she, of the three of us, is clearly the best musician.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, oh
Okay.
sure. She played violin and flute and all these other instruments and sang and everything, but she saw how ridiculous the music business was and went another direction. So she's a very musical psychologist.
I think it's interesting to grow up. I mean, in a house musically and the structure and orchestration that your dad is obviously iconic for, but then to be in a band like Toto, that again, going back to what we were talking at the beginning, there's a lot going on in Toto's music. It's very precise and clean and orchestrated. I think. I mean, when I listen to Toto's music, I kind of go along those lines.
That's exactly what it is. And that's why it was so exciting for me, because it was the sort of the one band in those days that was almost like a little bit of an orchestra, at least in the way they produced their music.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
layers and layers of things. Horns. And Rosanna, they had the huge great horn section playing those parts. And the musicianship was on the level of what you need to be a classical musician, only not classical. So, and I was always drawn to bands like Yes, who played, what we used to consider back when I was a kid to be, almost like orchestral rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's prog is one another word we would say, or progressive or whatever you want to call it. But there was something about Toto, in joining Toto, I felt like I was joining a band that was like doing music as good as Spielberg's films were. You know what I mean? So that part of it sort of made sense to me.
Did you ever run into Spielberg? Did he ever, were you when you were a kid? Was he like hanging around the house listening to Jaws or something?
Yeah, he was around. I've known him since I was 14. Yeah.
So would they, I mean, I remember I watched a documentary and I think it's just such an interesting thing to be there. And are you hearing like your dad playing on a piano and then going, all right, that became Raiders or that became Star Wars or that became ET?
Absolutely. I remember them all. I mean, it's mostly the ones when I was living at home, of course. But that accounts for a great many. I mean, I was at the in the house, and while he was working on Superman, the Superman that he did, and he asked me to come in and listen to two different possible thematic motifs and see which one I liked better. And I gave him my opinion, and he used the other one.
How different was the other one?
Not very different. It was just
No.
it was a little bit more I don't know, intricate than the first one, which was a little bit more basic, but he picked the more basic one because it spoke to more of the more humans in the world. You know what I mean? I picked the one that was just more interesting.
There's a quote from you. I read this somewhere. I've never judged myself against him ever. That's a very healthy mindset. I mean, and in your family, I think that's a really powerful thing. That says a lot about you, Joe.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I mean, he's 94 and he just finished a movie with Steven that's coming out in June,
Yeah,
this Disclosure Day. And he's 94. He's still as sharp as he ever was. I go over and spend a lot of time with him these days, over at the house and, learning so much more about him and everything. But I've always been his biggest fan. He's an absolute hero for me. And it very, very much separate from what I do and what I've always aspired to be and do. And so I don't compare myself and never really have.
I don't believe in like reliving the past. I mean, you can still be aware of your past and what you went through in the '80s, and to see where you're at now, and to reconnect with Steve, and you two are really carrying the torch for Toto. And um, I assume you've got to be in a great place when you get to go and play this music for so many fans like you'll do here in Detroit.
Oh, it's been unbelievable. I mean, the last 16 years for me, has been unbelievable. I think if you add up all the time I've actually spent in the band, I may be the singer who's been in the band the longest.
That's what I got. I did the math. You
Yeah.
are.
I
You
mean,
are.
it's a long time, and it's the best gig that you could ever want to have. I mean, it's unbelievable. First of all, Luke is my best friend in life. I've known him since 1974, 75, somewhere in there. And we happily, unlike a lot of other old bandmates, from other bands, we still get along really great. We spend a lot of time with each other on the road and off the road. And so it's a great little partnership that we have, and we realize that what we're doing is, to some people is not Toto, because the Carls are not around, and
Right.
Paige can't be in the band anymore, that kind of stuff. So we added the moniker Dogs of Oz to the band that we have now, as a way of just saying, yes, it's Toto, it's Luke, it's me, and we're doing all of that music, but we understand how some of the fans feel about how different it is, just in terms of personnel, to what it was back in the day. So okay, so we're Toto, and we're also the Dogs of Oz, and which is Toto, dog from Oz.
Oh, the vibe every time you're here, and Pine Knob, the venue is just amazing with you and Christopher Cross and the Romantics, August 29th at Pine Knob. All right, one more thing, Joe, and I've heard this on Wikipedia over the years. Is it true or false? You ready? I
Sure.
think you know this one. Are you the singing voice of the adult Simba in The Lion King?
I am indeed. I am indeed. That was a great gig. It was had no idea whether or not they were going to keep what I did. The being a part of the song Hakuna Matata was entirely an accident that I have my ex-wife to thank for because she was at the date, and she was friends with one of the co-producers, Mark Mancina, who was producing, some of the songs and stuff for the movie over at Hans Zimmer's studio. And when I went down there, I was basically asked to just sing, sort of Simba's part in "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" And then I'm standing in the booth and I could hear them, not hear them, but they're all talking and jawing. And what they were talking about was how to handle Hakuna Matata when Simba becomes a adolescent, because it was in a higher range than, what his voice is later on. And my wife at the time said to Mark, "Why don't you just let Joe try and, sing something over that line and, see where it goes?" And they let me do it. And the directors and the producers who were in the room said, "We love it." So it was a fluke, and had no idea that I was even going to be in the film after that session until the crew screening, which was
And
like a year later.
so you're sitting there and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's me. I'm in the movie.
Yeah, we did. My wife at the time and I went to the crew screening, and we were just like, thought that we were invited because I did some work on the film, and there it was.
Did you slide right by Matthew Broderick? Oh, how you doing? Sorry about that. I took your
Well,
voice.
no, but I mean, I knew that and heard over the years that he was very upset about it because the guy,
Really?
yeah, because he can sing.
Oh, yeah, he's a
You
Broadway
know,
guy.
he can sing. But in those days, they wanted the singing voice to be something a little more pop oriented. And he definitely leans towards the Broadway kind of sound, you know what I mean, the stage sound. But he's wonderful, a wonderful actor and a wonderful singer, and could have very easily had done it, but that was what they were looking for. And I didn't argue. To me, it was just a gig. To me, it was just another 2 hours in the studio for $1,000 or $600 or whatever it was.
A great story. I mean, you've had so much fun, and Joe, I can't wait to see you here. But I'll be backstage, and I want to come back and say hi to you and Luke. Obviously, I may even get Steve Karras to get off his ass and come here for a show. You never know.
Great.
You
Yeah.
never know. If it's not Kansas City, he won't go. But we'll see what happens. I could try to get him here, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. But that'd be great. Come back and hang.
You and Christopher Cross and the Romantics of Pine Knob, August 29th. Can't wait. All the best to you, Joe Williams. Continued health. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.